Welcome to episode 1 of Watson's House of Horrors. Before we get started, I should probably explain what this little podcast is all about. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to narrate 3 drabbles that I wrote. Drabbles are 100-word stories, exactly 100 words, so it's a little bit of a challenge. Before I read the stories, I'll give you a little background on how I came up with the ideas and the common thread that runs through each. I also want to have a little bit of fun on here too, so every episode will open with some fake horror-themed sponsor that doesn't really exist, obviously. Hopefully, a real sponsor will come along someday and help make this thing even better. So, come on in and enjoy the horror.
Welcome. Step inside my haunted house and stay a while. If you dare.
This week's episode of Watson's House of Horrors is brought to you by Burial Grounds Coffee. Beans so dark, you'll be begging for death. This week, my 3 stories are all about creatures. When I was a wee boy, I grew up loving horror movies, especially ones that featured monsters and dinosaurs. They scared the living hell out of me, but I loved it. So, with that in mind, it seemed like the perfect way to start this whole thing off, with 3 stories about creatures. Now, there is a kind of a larger theme going through here, which is death or impending death, but I think you'll find that's going to be common across a lot of my drabbles. But anyways, enough of my yapping, let's get to the stories. Story number 1. Beyond the Stars. Scientists and astronomers explained the explosion of a distant planet as nothing more than a phase change. They told us that it was too far away to have any impact on us. Still, we all continued to watch, enthralled as the fragments and space dust began to move and coalesce into something new, something truly alien. Before long, a pattern emerged. The ruined planet transformed into a being with humanoid form. When it turned in our direction and began to move, that was when panic set in and civilization fell apart. It was not an explosion after all, but rather a birthing. Story number 2. Along the forest path. When the blighted ground refused to yield any crops, the villagers knew that starvation would soon be upon them. The strongest men were chosen to head out and forage for food. The men used lamps to make their way through the dense forest, eventually coming to a well-worn path. They reckoned that a trail such as this must lead to another village, and so they followed it. In the end, all they found was something hungrier than them. When they encountered the massive antlered beast on the pathway, the men fell to their knees and begged for mercy. None was given. Story number 3. The crematory. Those tasked with looking after the dead often end up more concerned with the money that can be made. Why eat into profits to care for unclaimed bodies when dumping them is easier and cheaper? The mortuary carved bodies into pieces, dumping them into a pit out back, far from prying eyes. They dropped in chemicals to kill the smell, setting off a chain reaction that none saw coming. The thing that emerged from the pit was an amalgam of fetid flesh melded together in an unnatural work of art. Prometheus would have been proud of the newly birthed creature. That's it for this week. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to read more of my work, you can subscribe to me on Substack at www.authorjohnwatson.com. Catch you all on the next episode. Bye bye.